All right, welcome everybody to a live stream. It's been a little while since we've done one of these. We used to do these on a weekly basis, but we've kind of gotten away from that a little bit. And part of that is that we've been enjoying the presence on our channel of a few other contributors. One of them is here today. Tshaka, how's it going, man?
I am well. I'm very good. How you doing, Craig?
Not too bad, not too bad. Now you are out in sunny Southern California, and
Yes.
making all the rest of us jealous. I hope you're staying. I mean, weather-wise. I hope you're staying safe out there with viruses and
Yeah.
all that
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I have been out of the gym a couple days, and I'm thinking, oh, yeah, get back in the gym and get my routine going. And I thought, oh, wait, I need to stop and buy gloves first because I'm going to be touching all this equipment that hundreds of people throughout the day have put their hands on. So,
Yep.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
new reality.
It's quite the thing going on. Anyway, but part of the point of I guess one of the fun things about talking about tech is that it's look, your phone or your streaming service or whatever, it's not the most important thing in the world, but it is nice to take a break from those things and have some fun diving into tech stuff. And
Oh,
even
yeah.
if it's not the most important thing in the world, these phones, we have them in our pocket. They're our constant companions, and so there is some importance to them. Anyway, I guess I'm just trying to say it's nice to
Well,
get away from that stuff and talk about something like phones.
Well, and you know what, and to be honest, in terms of their importance, I mean, this technology, streaming technology, the technology that we're using right now, has enabled and empowered things like the Arab Spring.
Oh,
So when
sure.
we talk about how important this is, well, for some people, it's a privilege and a joy to use, and for others, it could be literally life and government and everything changing. So this is fun stuff. It's fun and it's important, and I think that's a cross section that kind of is the best of both worlds, as we get to enjoy all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did a video a while ago. Gosh, this was maybe a month ago or so about 5G, and it was kind of
Hmm.
just the concept of 5G and how we've seen some world-changing technologies just in terms of mobile technology. First, it was
Right.
3G, and what 3G meant for the ability for us to have smartphones at all, right? And then
Hmm.
4G made everything more connected than we'd ever seen before, and then 5G. I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, well, whatever. It's just faster. Who cares?" But there is a lot more that goes into it, and it's going to go into all sorts of technologies and whatnot. Today, of course, we're going to talk about what it means for that phone in your pocket and whether it's just faster, and if we should care about that, if 4G is already awesome enough, or if you saw a lot of difference with your experiments in 5G. Because today we're talking about the Galaxy S20 5G. I got to get. There's so many
That's right.
numbers and letters, and I can never remember which one's which. Yeah, but it's the S20 5G, right?
That's correct. And specifically, we're looking at it on T-Mobile's network here in Los Angeles. And the 5G is equipped with the bands that will allow me to access, or have allowed me to access, the 600 megahertz spectrum, which is the low frequency spectrum that T-Mobile has to offer. T-Mobile has the 600 megahertz. They also have the millimeter wave, which is the faster band. And if they do merge with Sprint, they'll also have the band that Sprint has, which will add a third 5G band to the offering that T-Mobile has for its customers.
Right.
So there's that.
Yep, and we know that merger is going through. It's just a matter of when that will actually affect everybody, right? So,
Correct.
yeah. So, okay, that's interesting. So, can you? I don't know if you have dug into the specs on all these things, but are you able to dig into what these different bands mean, like in practical terms? Because you can say 600 megahertz.
Sure.
I have no idea what you're talking about. So, break it down for me a little bit.
Well, I guess in lay terms, the generally when you have a lower frequency anything, because all of this is ultimately just radio frequencies, right? It's all RF. So when you have a lower number, that's generally or it's generally going to be more power. So a 600 megahertz spectrum should have better building penetration, whereas the millimeter wave is going to give you faster speeds. And so that's really kind of what I'm looking at with with the experience that I'm going to be demoing with T-Mobile's 5G network. I've also had the chance to demo Verizon's and some others. So we'll really get a sense of what exactly that's going to mean for users. One of the things I've noticed with millimeter wave, specifically in the building I'm in, it's not supposed to have quite as good building penetration as 600. So the millimeter wave, I've been getting amazing speeds. I've been getting 200 megabits per second. And so to put that into real world terms, most of you are probably getting cable internet speeds that are somewhere between 100 and 300 megabits per second, depending on where you live and what packages are offered to you. So that is a wired connection to your home that you're experiencing 100 megabits per second to about 300 megabits per second, unless you're one of the lucky few who has a gigabit
Right.
internet.
Well, and on the
So
other side of things, I'm sure that there are a few satellite internet customers who are saying, "I'd love to get 100 megabits per second."
or some people on U versus some of the other ones that have been stuck with like 12 megabits per second, and so yeah, that gets interesting. But so to give you an example, today I was testing in West Los Angeles, and so I had my iPhone 11 Pro Max, and I had the Samsung Galaxy S20 next to it, and I was testing the 5G versus LTE. So with the 5G, I was pulling in 100 megabits per second in that particular spot. With LTE, I was pulling in 25 megabits per second download speeds on the Pro Max.
Nice.
So that's kind of the difference, and what that really is going to mean for users, and is that they're going to have technology, they're going to have apps which are going to enable them to do more augmented reality, more things with augmented reality, and ultimately at the end of the day, it's going to enable gaming and 4K video streams and all these things that are really recreational. But I think
Yeah.
where we're really going to see technology advance is in the area of enterprise. So you're going to have firefighters who show up to a building, and it's going to allow them to download schematics with augmented reality in real time. So if you have somebody trapped in a burning building, you'll have a firefighter who's going to be able to download a schematic and with augmented reality be able to place individuals and offices and different things over that schematic. It's going to enable Minority Report type interactions with our world.
Right.
So these are what most companies are pushing really is the novel application of this, but the more important potentially again life-saving applications for 5G are going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's the fact that your phone goes faster is great, but if you can get driverless cars, remote surgery,
Yep.
whatever other technology. When we were at CES earlier this year, they were demoing. John Deere was demoing smart farm
Oh, yeah.
stuff. And these smart farms, they're like, we're going to be able to pull another 40% of food out of the ground every year because we'll be connected via 5G. And look at all this stuff we'll be able to do. It's pretty wild stuff. Okay. Anyway, so that's 5G, and it sounds like you're getting what, 9 or 10x the speeds on this. And this is not even the fastest 5G type of
No.
5G connection, but you're already getting 9 or 10x what you're getting on LTE, which is amazing. And that
and
sounds
not
very
only
cool.
that, something that people tend to overlook, and you're going to hear a dog barking. That's my baby girl. That's Starfire. This is a working home studio. You're going to, one of the interesting things I saw is even my download speeds were not that good on the 5G network because they really do vary. I've gotten as low as 25 megabits per second connected to 5G. Upload speeds were consistently in the 30 megabits per second range. That's faster than some people's download speeds. So for content creators, and again, taking it back to law enforcement or public service, you're going to have people that are going to be able to send data at incredible speeds, and that's going to be an amazing thing to be able to have.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's dive into the phone itself then. The thing that we're actually here to see, the Galaxy S20 5G. There it is. That's a beefy looking phone. That is not small.
It's a pretty big phone. It is highly pocketable. For I don't you know what? Here, I'm going to step out of camera just for a brief second.
All right.
For the joke. I'm going to do this for the joke.
Yeah. All right. While we're waiting for Tshaka to come back, if you're on the stream and you have any questions about the S20 5G, then hit the chat and we will answer those in real time if we can. Now, keep in mind nice. Okay.
Banana for scale.
All right.
So that's the size of the 5G. That's the size of the S20. Banana for scale. To give you another example, here's the Note 10, which is the smaller of the Note phones. And let's put it above the name bar.
Almost exactly the same size.
It is very pocketable. This is about the same size as the iPhone 11.
Yeah.
So this is to put it in context, this is Samsung's entry-level device in the Galaxy S lineup. So you have the S, you have the S Plus, and the S Ultra.
All right. And that actually feeds into a question that we just got from L. Molter. And she says, I'm curious about this phone, but the price is a huge deterrent. And the one that you're holding in your hands, the S20 5G, this is not the Ultra. The Ultra is like a $1,400 smartphone, right?
Yes, it is.
And so can we start by talking about the price point on these?
Yeah. So entry level is $1,000 for this phone. That's if you don't have a trade-in, if you don't have anything to offset that price. With a trade-in, you can get this phone, according to Samsung's website, which I'm looking at right now, is at $400. Of course, they say $399.99, but $400.
Sure.
So the S20 Plus will run you $1,200. The Ultra 5G, as you already said, is going to run you $1,400. So this phone, again, $1,000 for their entry-level phone. And the difference between this and the other models is you're not going to get all the 5G bands with this. You'll get it'll cover the 600 megahertz, but you won't get a radio in here that supports millimeter wave, which is the fastest. And ultimately, you're not going to miss out on too much because we're still a ways away from ubiquitous 5G blanketed coverage.
Sure. Now, from the layperson's perspective, that's me. When I hear, the S20, S20 Plus, S20 Ultra, you just mentioned something that I didn't know about, which is the radio, the capability to process these waves or receive these waves, whatever. Before you said that, the only thing I would have been able to point to is the camera, right? Yeah, the more expensive the phone, the better the camera. Is there anything else when it comes to these different tiers, these different lines of phones, whether it's the iPhone or the Galaxy or whatever? Is there anything else that goes into it that people should be aware of when they're talking about different tiers of cell phones?
Well, yeah. So for this particular phone, for the S line, some of the differences you'll also see is in the S20, in this version, you get a 4,000 milliamp hour battery. I'll get to this in a second. In the 20 plus, in the S20 plus, you're going to get a 4,500 milliamp hour battery. So you're going to get 500 more milliamps out of the battery. And what that is really going to make a difference in is talk time. So you're going to get theoretically more talk time out of the larger S20 Plus or S20 Ultra, again, because you have that larger battery.
Now,
and the S20 Ultra actually has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. So you have a much larger battery. But again, remember, you're powering a larger screen as well.
Right. Now, for context, I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember my numbers here. The iPhone, the top tier iPhone 11, what do they call it? The iPhone 11 Pro
has the 11 Pro Max.
Oh, the 11 Pro Max. I want to say it has 3,900 milliamps or something like that. For context,
let's see.
Just for comparison's sake, I guess I should say. Yeah, I can't remember exactly what the number is. I just remember seeing, I can't remember if it was, I think it was the Samsung lineup that just blew me away when I looked at the comparison numbers on the battery, because that's a huge thing for me is, I can't go, I can't try to plug in my phone or have to plug in my phone at 4:30 in the afternoon. There's no telling where I might be at that point, right? Every day is an adventure, so who knows where I might end up.
Well, the cool thing with a lot of these is that you are going to have quick charge enabled devices. So for instance, if you're sitting at your desk and you've already run down to 20% battery life, with a lot of these phones these days with quick charge enabled, you're going to be able to charge back up to, with one particular phone I was reviewing, 9 hours worth of use in about 15 to 20 minutes. So one of the things I recommend for people is, if you are somebody who talks a lot on the phone and you are just hammering your battery, there are quick charge car adapters, quick charge car chargers for your cigarette lighter, or if your car has some other connection. There are quick charge that you can buy from different companies, and they have that quick charge technology enabled. So within 15 minutes of your commute, you've restored a quarter of your battery, or depending on how fast or how many watts that car adapter is rated, you've restored maybe half your battery. So you do have those these days as well. That'll get you where you need to go.
Right. Okay. So before we continue, I'll just remind everybody, anybody new who's come into the stream here, go ahead and throw your comments and questions for Tshaka in the chat box. I guess it's reversed. So for you, it's over there, past Tshaka. So go over there to that chat box and hit us up with any questions or comments. This phone, the S20 5G, does not come out until Friday, but Tshaka's had 24 hours now with the phone. I guess my question for you now would be, all right, we've talked about the price point. We've talked about a few of the differences between the different lines, but now I'm just going to throw it wide open and say, in 24 hours, what are your first impressions? How do you like it so far?
Okay, so let's pick up the right phone because I just had the Note 10 in my hand. One of my issues with actually the Note 10 with the previous gen is these phones have let's see if we can get it here, have a fingerprint scanner under the screen. You can see that it's right here. When you go to access the phone, you have the fingerprint scanner. And one of the things that was somewhat bothersome for me with the Note phone is that the target area for that fingerprint scanner gave me false positives, if you will. I would hit it and it would say no match. It wouldn't unlock the phone. You had to be very precise with where you hit that fingerprint scanner. And with this one, like you saw, it just opened right up. And it really is a different experience on the fingerprint scanner on the newer devices. So that is one thing I've noticed I really have been liking, is the target area where the fingerprint scanner is concerned. The other area is the pictures on the front facing camera. When you go into like portrait mode, selfie mode, if you will, they're really solid. They do a really good job of using a combination of software and the hardware to cut out a background. So let's see if I pull one up here. Let's see, gallery. There we go. and I'll pull up from my voting yesterday. You have an image where it allowed me to add an effect to the background.
Oh, cool.
Of,
All right.
it's kind of blurred out. And that is a combination of hardware and software that's doing that. It's mostly software, actually. So on the rear of the phone, the front of the phone, you have this one front-facing camera. And that camera, let me see if I can get that up for you here. That front-facing camera is 10 megapixels. On the back of the phone, you have 3 cameras, or actually, I'm sorry, on this one, you actually have a 12 megapixel wide angle lens, a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, and a 64 megapixel telephoto lens.
Mm.
On the larger models, you get something called a time of flight or depth sensor, another camera, which enables cleaner versions of this effect that cuts out the background. And so what I have noticed is that even without that depth sensing camera that improves the effect, you're still getting a really good camera with software that is still going to give you some fun with those effects when you're taking pictures. We talked about the recreational aspects of the phone, and so being able to take fun and cool pictures is definitely a thing that you see. Everybody takes pictures for the gram or for Twitter or for their Facebook
Right.
page. So being able to enable some of those cool features is a great thing. The other thing that people may not always know or take for granted sometimes with Samsung's phones is that they have really solid audio output. Their speaker output is really good. They've done a great job with giving you a stereo pair of speakers, so that
Mm.
on the bottom you have one speaker, and then the up above the display you have a little slit there that allows for you to have a second speaker, if you will, and so you get a really good stereo output from the Galaxy line of phones. So that is something that is pretty cool to be able to use if you're watching a video, if you're actually watching Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime from your device. The other thing they
It's all
did
right.
with
It's just a
the
review copy. It's all right.
yeah, infinity display. There were people. It was kind of a hit or miss. People either loved or hated the fact that Samsung used to have edges that were really curved,
Oh
and
yeah.
sometimes when you were trying to access things on the edge of the phone, the hit state it was a little off. It was a little wacky.
Especially with a
And so
case,
what they've
right?
oh yeah, and what they've done is you still have the Infinity Edge. They call this the Infinity O Edge. You still have that Infinity display, but what they've done is the images, the content doesn't fall off the edge display quite like it did. And so you actually have a better tactile experience with accessing or interacting with items and icons and content on the display itself.
Yeah, I think I had the first version of the Galaxy line to do that. Was it the S8 that started the Infinity Edge? And I put up with it for a little while, but I didn't love it. I'll tell you, I didn't love
Yeah,
it.
yeah, people, it was a love-hate thing. And but Samsung listened and kind of corrected that. I'm noticing that the color, this is actually bluish.
Oh, is it
Uh,
really?
yeah, so interesting
So what you're
white
saying
balance
is
part there.
your webcam does not have perfect color reproduction.
Reproduction, yeah,
I'm shocked.
the white balance is a little off on this web camera right now. Uh, but some of the other things you're going to get is with these phones is this one has the smallest display. It's 6.2 inches. This is an quad HD plus AMOLED display, and it is beautiful. One of the other items that you'll get on this phone is what they call a 120 hertz refresh rate option. So in this phone, you can go into the settings, into the display settings, and you can turn up. You can actually set the screen resolution. So you can go in here and you can, I know it's really, these displays are real shiny too, so it's actually kind of hard to show that to you. But
Right.
you can set the resolution, the screen resolution, to either HD, what they call HD plus, which is 1600 by 720, full HD, which is 2400 by 1080, or what they call WQHD, which is 3200 by 1440. Now, I tell you all that to say that that 120 hertz refresh rate, and I'm going to explain exactly what that means so you have a better understanding, our viewers, is a refresh rate on a screen is similar to an animation flip book. And when you take that flip book and, you know, they're all just still images and you start flipping the pages, whatever's on the pages animates. The faster or more smoothly you flip those pages, the better that animation is going to look. That's a refresh rate.
Yep.
So 60 hertz is not as smooth and fluid as 120 hertz. That's twice the speed. So this screen has a 120 hertz refresh rate, which means that when you're doing things on the screen, it's going to look really smooth, really fluid as it moves between things. As you're launching apps, the animations are going to be smoother than the animations are going to be smoother than the 60 hertz. But it only supports it at full HD. So if you want the highest resolution that this phone offers, you can only use the 60 hertz option with the highest resolution. If you want that 120 hertz smooth flip book feeling, you're going to have to go with the HD option.
The which one? You have to go
The full HD option.
Oh, I see. Okay. So is there a phone out there that does that full HD or whatever, the what'd you call it? The UQ78556 HD?
Yep, and I just figured out why my phone was, and let me change the display so it stays on. I just figured out why my screen was looking like it was. It's because before I got on this chat, I was playing with the settings of this live stream and I had on green screen.
Oh,
so
okay.
It turned everything green. So here we go. We're blue like we
That
should
is
be
blue,
now.
isn't it? All right.
Yeah, there we go.
I guess is that the best we're gonna get in terms of resolution plus refresh rate, or is there a phone out there that does it better?
Yes, there have been gaming phones like Razer put out a phone that had a high resolution, high refresh rate screen. But the trade-off with that is battery life. So of course, when you increase the resolution, you're going to increase the power draw. When you increase the refresh rate, additionally, you'll be increasing the power draw. So every time you increase those types of features on a phone, you're actually increasing the amount of battery you use. And one of the things that I often talk about with fellow tech reviewers is just how much people actually notice. If I put two phones up in front of you and was like, hey, tell me which one has the 120 hertz refresh rate, 99% of people wouldn't be able to tell you, probably including myself. It's really difficult to tell. I mean, I've looked at enough of them that I might get lucky and I might probably be able to tell you. But for 90% of the public, they're not going to be able to tell.
Not that big a deal.
One of the things, And so I tell people, look, turn it on. If you notice it and you like it, leave it on. Turn it off. If you don't notice it and you still like it, leave it off. You get a little bit better battery life.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, cool. So as you're going to be preparing to do a full review of this thing in the coming weeks, right? And as I understand it, you like to, what do you call it? Make the phone your primary driver for at least a week before you do a review, right? And
absolutely.
What I'm wondering is, what are you going to be looking for? Because it sounds like you've got a lot of these specs and stuff at the tip of your tongue already. But what is it you're going to be looking for as you use the phone for a week to know if you recommend it or not?
Ultimately, I think the most important thing people generally look at is battery life. Is this an all-day phone? Am I going to be tethered to a charger? Am I going to go to work and then have an after-work function and have 20% battery left and then deal with FOMO at an after-work function?
Right.
And so battery life is definitely probably one of the most important aspects I'll look at. Call, how calling affects battery life. And then again, the other thing that I think people really look at is photos, because most of us don't carry point and shoot cameras anymore. Those are pretty much dead. Some people do. So not talking about y'all that still carry it. God bless you. But a lot of people, the phones are $500 and $600 now, $1,000, $1,400. So who wants to buy a smartphone and buy some point and shoot camera? Unless you're really kind of a photography hobbyist. So having a phone that has a capable image sensor that specifically, because one features they tout is the ability to take low light photos. So night mode in these cameras is going to be a big deal. And that is one thing that I actually do take a pretty solid look at to see how it's going to vary in the night mode. So you get these extra options in the phone, one of them being night mode. And so you want to see how good the sensor does in low light. And so one of the things I do is I have this grandpa statue. Take that in here, and this is actually my dining room area, and I'll take that and turn off all the lights in here at night. And I've got some vertical blinds. And so there's a little bit of light peeking through those vertical blinds, but it's pretty much completely dark, which is a scenario most people aren't going to take a picture in. And I'll take a picture of that statue. And some cameras actually brighten it up, and they use whatever available light is here, that generally being the light kind of peeking through the slats of the vertical blinds, and they'll produce a picture that's actually useful. Cameras whose night mode isn't quite as superior or quite as strong, the picture's unusable.
Right.
So that's one of my tests. And then I'll go out and I'll go and walk the neighborhood and take some night photos. There's a really colorful metro stop by me. And so I'll go down there and snap some photos of that. So you get a good idea of just how well this phone's cameras will handle color in the dark or at night, and just how well they'll handle contrast and exposure. So those are really battery and camera. And then other than that, it's just noticing all the little fit and finish. How hard is it for me to use the features? If the keyboard allows me to do a certain thing, how hard is it to use that feature? Is it a really well thought out feature or a gimmick? And so those are a lot of the things I'll look at is, okay, if they're pushing X, Y, and Z feature, how many people are actually going to use that feature on a regular basis?
Right.
How functional is it?
Right. Okay. All right. Very good. Well, Tshaka, let's turn you loose then to go do your review on this phone. I'm interested to see what you come up with. And Tshaka, what is your Twitter handle that people can go find you at?
Well, I've made it very difficult for the world having the name Tshaka Armstrong. So you can find me everywhere. It was not taken. I didn't have to pay anybody off for it. You can find me everywhere, Tshaka Armstrong. Tshaka Armstrong spelled like it sounds. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all over the place.
Perfect. All right.
Well, we have one more question in here from
excellent.
L. Asking me asking about the Note 10. Is it still worth purchasing a Note 10 Plus 5G now that, the S20 5G will be out Friday? Or is it better to look into the S20? That's tough because I've only had it for 24 hours. In terms of cost, for example, the Note 10 it was either at 1,000 or 950. I don't recall off the top of my head at the moment. But with the Note line, you're getting the top of the line, everything Samsung has to offer for that $1,000. Whereas with the S20 line, if you want the top of the line, you're going to get that S20 Ultra, and that's going to cost you $1,400. Now, the difference in the two is going to be that you don't have the new Uber 100x zoom that you have on the Ultra. And so that's something you have to decide for you. Is this a feature I'm going to miss? And so if you look at the feature set of the S20 Ultra and the feature set, specifically you asked about the 10 Plus 5G, And if you say, you know what, I don't need 100x zoom. I'm not in the high rise trying to spot people in the building across the way. I don't go to many sporting events, so I'm not trying. So I'm not sitting in the nosebleed trying to take pictures of the athletes down on the field. If you don't think there are going to be a whole lot of opportunities where you're the type of person who's going to use that 100x zoom, then it may be more cost effective for you to look at the Note 10 Plus. And that's actually been a trend. Over the holiday season, iPhone's biggest selling phone was their iPhone 11, not the Pro, not the Pro Max, but the 11. And there have been some reports that say that the pre-orders for the S20 line have been about 50% of what they were for the S10 line. So as these prices get higher, it appears that people are looking at what L's looking at and saying, what if I buy the entry level, or what if I buy the previous gen?
Right.
So it's something to take in mind.
Okay, very good.
And I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. L-L-L-E.
We do our best. We do our best. Can't ask anything more, right? Okay, good. Well,
Absolutely.
Tshaka, we're going to cut and run for today. So for those of you who are here now, or if you're watching later after this gets uploaded to the channel, go ahead and throw your additional questions and comments either in the chat bar or in the comments down below. And I'm sure Tshaka will take a look at those as he is going through the review process for this phone. Yeah, I'm excited to see what comes out of it, especially, I mean, my number one question, and it's a simple and a complex question at the same time, is this worth the money, right? These are expensive phones. Is it going to be worth the money? If you can answer that question for me, I'm a happy man.
I can absolutely Socratically answer that question for you.
Oh, yeah?
And you're not going to like the Socratic answer. The answer is, it is absolutely worth it if it's worth it to you.
Oh, man. All right. Well, you know what? Now we're getting all, mystical, and this is,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, very good. Tshaka, thanks for coming on, buddy. And
my pleasure.
everybody will be able to see you on Monday. So we'll see you then.
We'll see you then.